All right, this year I'm studying child psychology. My quote is, "The purpose of human life is to serve and to show compassion in the will to help others." And I kind of decided at the beginning of this process that, and just picking like what I want to do when I'm older, that if I'm not helping others, or I'm just making like a ton of money and I'm doing nothing with the money to help others, then I've done something wrong. So that's the most important thing for me. For my research assessments, I picked a different disorder that I was interested in and just researched more on that. Like, I found out more about Capgras syndrome, which is where you think, like I would think like my mom wasn't really my mom and she had been replaced by an alien and somebody was trying to get to me. And that was found to be linked with cases of schizophrenia. And then there was also like multiple personalities disorder, and some of the personalities like know about the other personalities and they'll try to control them. And normally the innocent personalities will be like that person originally, and because they're like really scared and they don't know what's going on, and really like they're doing them to themselves, and that like furthers they kind of like get crazier as it goes on. And I researched the effects of trauma on kids and how it can really affect their brain development as well as like physical growth, like, and sometimes they'll start like reverse cycling almost, where they will forget how they'll become unpotty trained because they feel like that's something that they can control, and they'll start like wetting their pants at 9 years old. And so it just takes a toll on them in many different ways. And then this didn't really pertain to child psychology, but I read a lot about group therapy in prisons, and the prisoners are put in cages separately, and the therapist is a certain distance away so that they can't be spit upon or peed upon. And the cages have like different nets and different like protection. And so it's really, you're treating the prisoners like animals and then expect them the next day to walk out on the streets and join a member of society after they've been treated their entire life like their entire life in prison like they're too dangerous to even have a conversation with a therapist. And some of the different forms of therapy I learned about in my research assessments and my interviews. One of them was play therapy, which is kind of the general umbrella to which the rest of them fall under. And the whole theory behind it was that children express their feelings through actions, not through speech, so they can't always tell you how they feel, and a lot of times it's because they don't always know how they feel. And my mentor set it up. She said that toys are their words and playing is their communication. So they're telling you what's wrong with them without realizing it, one, and two, like the therapist, if they get used to looking for certain things, they can see what the child is going through, and that way they don't have to try to dig it out of them by talking to them. The next kind of therapy is art therapy, and this like helps them express their emotions more than, sometimes they'll draw pictures of what happened, like they'll draw pictures of people or certain things, but also a therapist can tell like if the page is really messy, what's going on, or like how they might be feeling, or if the page is like really neat, you can tell they're trying to like bring order to their lives and like control certain things. And it's also like a stress reliever for the kids, and if the therapist will just hand them a sheet of paper and some paint, it'll help them like get their anger out if they're really angry in a session, and then it'll eventually calm them down. The next type of therapy I learned about, which was really weird, I thought, was sand tray therapy, which is just a box like this big full of sand, and it has different figurines, and they'll basically like, it's like a dollhouse kind of, they'll act out what's going on and they can create certain scenes with the sand. And this is another way for the therapist to tell exactly what happened, because it's more of like the child is acting it out in front of them without them having to say it. And then the last kind I learned about was animal therapy, which makes them feel a lot safer and like they're in a more trusting environment and helps them open up to their therapist more. When I had one of my interviews, she actually had a therapy dog with her that she trained, And I was really nervous because she'd been a mentor twice before, so I was especially nervous like going to interview in front of her. I wasn't confident enough yet, and the dog came and sat in my lap and like had me start to pet it, and I like instantly calmed down just at being there. So it really does work because I could like feel myself calming down, and we had a really good conversation. My first interview was with Robbie Heath. She works at Kid Talk, which is a private practice on Main Street. And she was a really big advocate for stand tray therapy. And from her, I kind of, because this was all new to me, so she kind of talked me through the different types of therapy that I just went over. Like, she's a therapy dog, come visit her office twice a week, and she'll schedule certain appointments with certain clients on those days if she feels like it'll really benefit them. And one other thing that was really weird that nobody else I had met with did was she did kid yoga therapy. She had a yoga studio in the back of her office space, and she said she would go back there with the kids and they'd do yoga. So I guess it's therapeutic. My second interview was with Ellison L, and she was just starting out becoming fully licensed. She got her basic license, and then to get fully licensed she has to get 3,000 hours, which means she has to meet with a mentor, and they go over each case that she has and what she said to the client and how the client responded and what she could have said to the client and how she'll address them next time. So it's a lot of meeting, and it normally takes about 1.5 to 2 years to get fully licensed. She also talked a lot about philiotherapy, which is kind of what the therapists do anyways, but she just had a name for it, which is working with the child alongside the parent, because the parents play a really big role in what's wrong with the child. And she was new to her private practice. And then Erica Meek was my third interview, and she's been a mentor 2 times before. She was the one who had the therapy dog. She actually gave me, he had a business card. It was kind of cool because she gets to choose her work schedule. Like, she only works Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, so she can be with her family. And she was a mentor last year actually for a girl, I can't remember her name, and then for somebody at Wakeland a few years ago. My fourth interview was with Holly Lockett. She has a huge background in criminal justice. She thought she was gonna work with criminal psychology and go through prisons and do stuff like that. But something happened with her niece where her niece's father died, and she was seeing the school counselor, and she kept having all these problems in class, and eventually the school counselor told her that she needed to get over it, and that's not exactly what you say to a child who lost their dad 3 months ago. So she decided that there was really a need for therapists, and she decided she should become one. And she works a lot in high-profile divorce cases because she knows all the legal implications of that. My last interview was with Edwina Townsend, and she was Erica Meek's mentor when she was getting her 3,000 hours. So Erica referred me to her, and she was a school counselor along with a private practice counselor. So I talked to her more about the school counselor side because I hadn't heard of that from anybody else yet. And I learned a lot that there's a lot of restrictions placed on school counselors. Like, they can only meet with the student 3 or 4 times before they have to send them off. So they really don't have a chance to get anywhere with them. They just have to find out the basis of the problems when they refer them to their school therapist or their regular therapist. And then what I learned from my interviews overall was that working with parents is a really hard part of therapy, because a lot of the parents are the problem and they don't want to see that, and they just can't see it sometimes, and they have to change for something to get better, and they won't always change, and you have to be really respectful and talk to them and not tell them that it's their fault that this is happening. You kind of have to work around it. And then I learned about the effectiveness of play therapy and how it can really speak for the child. And 3 out of 4 of the people I interviewed graduated grad school from UNT, and they all studied under Dr. Landreth, who founded play therapy, so they're learning like straight from him. And then this is my mentor I chose. That's Erica Meek, and that's the dog Huey. And I've met with her 3 times before, and it's gone really well each time, and I'm really excited for what we have planned. And then my original work, I went on a mission trip this summer to Honduras, and I really loved being down there and getting to know all the kids. And I decided for they need a lot of help down there, and I decided for my original work and final product, create care packages for some of the kids that are in grief therapy because they've lost a parent, which will consist of like art supplies and just money for food, because you have to meet the basic needs before you can start meeting the therapeutic needs. And those are just some of the kids that I met with down there. I think that's it.